talking about the Abominable Snowman. Yeah, so the Abominable Snowman, an interesting concept because it's pretty much just it's Bigfoot. It's the Yeti. It's like a snowy Yeti. It's like the Wampas that you find in Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, you know?
Yeah.
Those are the Abominable Snowmans. We remember them from children's classics like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and oh, Elf.
We talked about Elf.
I know,
We
but I'm
definitely
saying
talked
like
about that.
we were gonna mention like the Abominable Snowman in like in certain like movies. Oh, Monsters Inc.
Yes.
We have to mention Monsters Inc.
Yes.
because that that was an interesting scene when they're going through like all the different like doorways and they stumble across like a Yeti in the Himalayas.
He's super cool.
And he's super cool. Yeah, he was. He was super cool. That was a very brief part. I feel like that's where like every time we get like a multiverse movie or something like that. This is just a small aside. I feel like every time we get like a multiverse movie or like when Peacemaker has all those different doorways or when Doctor Strange is like going through the multiverse, I feel like all of that goes back to like to Monsters Inc. going through the different doorways. And maybe there's something before that, but that's like the one that I can think of in pop culture. But I wanted to give the respect to Monsters Inc. for that because I never thought of that. Oh, I guess you could say Doctor Who or Bill and Ted, but I'm not familiar with Doctor Who as much.
I've never seen that.
I do like when Scooby Doo, though, when they go through the different doors and they pop out in different places and then eventually they accidentally like walk into each other. That's a good one. That's a good That's a good non-example of what I'm talking about.
I think there's a Yeti episode.
Is there a, yeah, there is
Abominable
a,
Snowman episode.
I think so. I think they even fight the Abominable Snowman in one of their movies too. Like Scooby-Doo versus the Abominable Snowman. Oh man,
Look
Scooby
that
would
up.
get destroyed. Let's
Look that up right
see.
now.
Let's look up the Abominable Snowman in pop culture. But I am also going to look up the Scooby-Doo ones.
Real sighting.
Yes, and real sightings. We should check High Strangeness real quick too. All right, he's in Doctor Who as well. They made a movie called Smallfoot. I never watched that, but I heard it was okay. The Yeti. The Abominable Snowman arose from a 1921 mistranslation of a Tibetan word during an Everest expedition, capturing Western imagination. Evolution from menace to friend. Early portrayals like 1957's Abominable Snowman were fearsome. Modern takes often soften it, as seen in the friendly Yeti in Monsters Inc. or the lead in Smallfoot. Interesting. I love the Rudolph one. That's amazing. He represents, his symbolism is wilderness, the unknown, adventure, and sometimes a misunderstood gentle giant, contrasting with its fearsome local legends.
I could be wrong, but is there a Yeti in the third Mummy movie?
I think there are Yetis in the third Mummy movie. And it's called,
When they're like going to Shangri-La?
yeah. They have that snow ghost. They have the case of Frosty the Snowman and Chill Out Scooby Doo with the Yetis, if I'm not mistaken, in Scooby Doo movies. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the Mummy 3 has the Yeti. That's actually probably the best scene of the entire movie, honestly. I like the idea of just randomly adding Yetis to the Mummy universe. Let's see. Let's go to the wiki. Yeti. The Yeti is an ape-like creature purported to inhabit the Himalayan mountain range in Asia. In Western pop culture, the creature is commonly referred to as the Abominable Snowman. Many dubious articles have been offered in an attempt to prove the existence of the Yeti, including anecdotal visual sightings, disputed video. Sounds like the CIA always writes these Wikipedia descriptions. They're like, yeah, it's nothing. It's nothing that you should concern yourself about. Okay, I'm trying to talk like the.
Why don't they want us to know about Yetis?
You shouldn't learn about Yetis. They don't exist. Okay.
And it's harmful to think about.
Your brain will hurt if you think about Yetis too much. The Yeti is often described as being a large bipedal ape-like creature that is covered with brown, gray, or white hair, and it is sometimes depicted as having large, sharp teeth. Ooh, let's see. Tibetan lore describes three main varieties of the Yeti. The Nyamo, which has black fur and is the largest and fiercest, standing around 15 feet tall. The Shuti, which stands around 8 feet tall and lives 8,000 and 10,000 feet above sea level, And the Rangshimbombo, which has reddish-brown fur and is only between 3 and 5 feet tall. Other terms used by the Himalayan peoples do not translate exactly the same but refer to legendary indigenous wildlife. The Mishe translates as man bear. The Dizu Te translates as cattle, and the full meaning translates as cattle bear, referring to the Himalayan brown bear. Well, that's not what, that can't be the right one. The Migoi or Migu translates as wild man, and the Bunmanchi, Nepali for jungle man, that is used outside Sherpa communities where Yeti is the common name. Merka, another name for wild man, local legend holds that anyone who sees one dies or is killed. Well, then how can they know if they've seen one? The latter is taken from a written statement by Frank Smythe's Sherpas in 1937. And then you have the Kang Admi, the snowman, the Jungli Admi, the wild man, and the Zurin, the snowman. And in Russian folklore, the Chichuna is an entity said to dwell in Siberia. It has been described as 6 to 7 feet tall and covered with dark hair. And according to native accounts from the nomadic Yakut and Tungus tribes, it is a well-built Neanderthal-like man wearing pelts and bearing a white patch of fur on its forearms. It is said to occasionally consume human flesh, unlike their close cousins, the Almastis, and some witnesses reported seeing a tail on the creature's corpse. It is described as being roughly 6 to 7 feet tall, and there are additional tales of large reclusive bipedal creatures worldwide, notably including both Bigfoot and the Abominable Snowman. That's cool. I've never heard of that Russian one. Let's see. This is about the name. The name the Abominable Snowman was coined in 1921, the year Lieutenant Colonel Charles Howard Bury led the 1921 British Mount Everest reconnaissance expedition, which he chronicled in Mount Everest: The Reconnaissance, 1921. In the book, Howard Bury includes an account of crossing the Lagpa La at 21,000 feet, where he found footprints which he believed were probably caused by a large loping gray wolf, which in the soft snow formed double tracks rather like those of a barefooted man. He adds that his Sherpa guides at once volunteered that the tracks must be that of the wild man of the snows, to which they gave the name the Mito Kangmi. Mito translates as man bear, and Kangmi translates as snowman. So the man bear snowman. Fun. Confusion exists between Howard Bury's recitation of the term Meto Kangmi and the term used in Bill Tillman's book Mount Everest in 1938, where Tillman had used the words mech, which does not exist in the Tibetan language, and Kangmi when relating to the coming of the term Abominable Snowman. Further evidence of the mech being a misnomer is provided by Tibetan language authority Professor David Snellgrove, what a name, from the School of Oriental and African Studies at the University of London. They really need to change that name. Who dismissed the word mech as possible because the consonants tch cannot be conjoined in the Tibetan language. Documentation suggests that the name Mech Kangmi is derived from one source, from the year 1921. It has been suggested that Mech is simply a misspelling of Mito. Okay, a lot of that bullshit. Interesting. All right, so you want the history of the sightings?
Yeah.
This is pre-19th century. According to H. Seeger, the Yeti was part of the pre-Buddhist beliefs of several Himalayan people. He was told that the Lepcha people worshipped a glacier being as a god of the hunt. He also reported that followers of the Bon religion once believed the blood of the Mir god, or wild man, had use in certain spiritual ceremonies. The being was depicted as an ape-like creature who carries a large stone as a weapon and makes a whistling swoosh sound. That's crazy. Sounds exactly like Bigfoot, like legit. It's honestly, I gotta say, like, it's kind of, to me, Bigfoot and dragons. I know we've had this conversation before, but like all these types of like things that we have tales of going around the world, it only makes sense that we would have something that would fill in its place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we have so many of these things, and you even like said like you'd like to think like the idea of the plesiosaurus never died. I just think that like Maybe it's like ghosts, or like maybe these things just have not died. Maybe it's not just the idea. But you could be right. Imagine if like things like psychedelics or like certain states of mind allow us to like read our ancient DNA or anything that's like within us, that we can like actually like pick apart things that we've lost, like knowledge. Like that would be amazing. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Almost like a psychic awareness, I guess. I guess that's what it would be. All right. Yeti was adopted into Tibetan Buddhism, where it is considered a non-human animal, Aragiani, that is nonetheless human enough to sometimes be able to follow the Dharma. What? Several stories feature Yetis becoming helpers and disciples to religious figures. Oh my god. Dude, I know what this episode picture is gonna be. In Tibet, images of Yetis are paraded and occasionally worshipped as guardians against evil spirits. However, because Yetis sometimes act as enforcers of the Dharma, hearing or seeing one is often considered a bad omen for which the witness must accumulate merit. What? Is that part of like the Dharma? You have to accumulate merit? This is a merit based religion? I kind of like that. In 1832, this is the 19th century, James Princep's Journal of the Asiatic Society of Bengal published Trekker B.H. Hodgson's account of his experiences in northern Nepal. His local guide spotted a tall bipedal creature covered with long dark hair which seemed to flee in fear. Hodgson concluded it was an orangutan. Okay. An early record of reported footprints appeared in 1899. Lawrence Waddles among the Himalayas. Waddle reported his guide's description of a large ape-like creature that left the footprints. If I'm not mistaken, that might be different footprints, but there are some footprints that we are going to show up on the screen a little bit that a lot of people think are Yeti footprints, like real Yeti footprints. Do you know which ones I'm talking about?
No.
I'll show those to you. Oh, it's this one right here. I'll show it in chat right now. Here, I'm sharing the screen. This is what people think that was like the documented photograph of Bigfoot, or a Yeti, I should say. Do you see it?
1 second.
Yep. It does look like a monkey foot,
Yeah. Yeah.
or like a gorilla foot.
Well, I don't know what. I think gorilla feet would look more like hands, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That almost looks like a hand a little bit.
You think that looks like a hand?
Let me take a better look at it because I'm looking at it through the thing. I mean, dude, the things look kind of like long, the toes, and they look grippy. You know what I mean? Like they could
Yeah, like
grab
the
onto
big toe
something.
almost looks like an opposable thumb.
That's what I'm saying. But it still looks like a big toe. And you know what? I bet you Bigfoot, like having like grippy feet, it would really come in handy in like the Himalayas to walk up shit. You know what I'm saying? But who knows?
Who would win in a fight? The Yeti or Bigfoot?
I don't know. You know what's interesting about both of these creatures is they're both kind of depicted as being like spiritual wilderness beings in both of their like native cultures. You know what I mean? The Yeti is depicted in this religion as being like able to like follow like a spiritual path and able to help out like spiritual people. And then the Bigfoot is always depicted in like in like, or at least like how Native American legends depict him. He's depicted as, you know, he is aggressive, but a lot of the time he's more of just aggressive about like the wilderness and just wanting everything to be like copacetic in the wilderness. I will answer your thing and say though that I'm gonna say Bigfoot would probably be the more
Really?
aggressive. Yeah. I would say, well, you know what? This is what I think would happen. I think Bigfoot would be the more aggressive one and would start the fight, and I think Yeti would figure it out eventually that he's got to start kicking ass and would eventually dominate. You know what I'm saying?
I just imagine a Yeti to be meaner.
I imagine a Yeti to be see, everything that we hear about Yetis is they always like stalk people, but they never like approach people and attack them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There've been like Bigfoot like attacks and shit where people are like, "Oh my god, I got attacked by a Bigfoot," or "No, I just seen a Bigfoot." But there've been attacks. It seems like Yeti attacks are far and few in between, or at least that's what I'm getting out of it. And it seems like Seems like to me that the Yeti wants to be left alone, but if it's provoked, it will attack. You know what I mean? That's my analysis of the Bigfoot Yeti fight. All right. You want to go back to the history real quick?
What about a Yeti versus a werebear?
Oh, a werebear, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah. 100% werebear. That's a supernatural being. I mean, sure, a Yeti might be spiritual, but like a supernatural being is it usually trumps spiritual beings. You know what I mean? There's usually more power involved. And if you're a werewolf, I think you could take on a Yeti, honestly. If you're a werebear, oh my god. You're basically like a demonic bear at that point, right? So you could take him on.
Demonic?
Well, if you're a werebear, like, you know what I mean? You're basically like a cursed, like, bear-like thing. All right, let's get back to Yetis. And, and unless you got one more for me.
Um,
Go ahead, ask me one while I smoke this real quick.
hmm.
Think of one.
Why isn't there a cryptid fighting game?
Dude, we've gone over this. We need to make a cryptid fighting game. But there is. It's that Pokemon mod game that people talk about, apparently.
No, but like a fighting game.
Oh, you mean like Marvel vs. Capcom?
Yeah,
I don't know. Like a Mortal Kombat cryptid game. That would actually be pretty badass.
I know.
If anybody wants that idea, they can take it as long as they make it and say, as the world burns, inspired. Or where when the world burns, where the world burns, whatever. That would be funny. All right. Yeah, no, I don't know why they haven't done that yet, but honestly, that would make a great. Hey, they kind of have. That's almost like the idea for Rampage.
Yeah.
That's almost Rampage. I used to love that game too.
More kaiju than cryptid.
Yeah, well, that's like taking the kaiju and cryptid idea and like smashing them together because the kaijus look more like cryptids than anything else because you got like a Yeti type creature, you've got like a giant lizard man who doesn't look like Godzilla, he looks more like just a lizard man. You know what I mean? You got like a wolf man. I don't know. All right. Let's finish up the Yeti history. An early record of reported footprints appeared in 1890. Oh, wait, I already read this. In the 20th century, the frequency of reports increased during the early 20th century when Westerners began making determined attempts to scale the many mountains in the area and occasionally reported seeing odd creatures or strange tracks. See, it's always these hysterical, Westerners that just come out here and just start ruining everything. They're like, I'm Swedish. I've gone up every single mountain in Sweden. I want to go to the Himalayas. I just fucked up my Swedish accent there, but you get where I'm going with it. I go to Himalayas now. um, in 1925, N.A. Tombazi, a photographer and member of the Royal Geographical Society, writes that he saw a creature at about 15,000 feet near Zimu Glacier. Tombazi later wrote that he observed the creature from about 200 to 300 yards for about a minute. Unquestionably, the figure in outline was exactly like a human being walking upright and stopping occasionally pull up at some dwarf rhododendron bushes. It showed up dark against the snow and as far as I could make out wore no clothes. About 2 hours later, Tombazi and his companions descended the mountain and saw the creature's prints, described as similar in shape to those of a man, but only 6 to 7 inches long by 4 inches wide. The prints were undoubtedly those of a biped. It's weird that they're not so big. Maybe it was just like a young one. During the autumn of 1937, in Pasang Sherpa, later Pasang Dawa Lama, encountered footprints on the approaches to and at the Zimu Gap above the Zimu Glacier that were thought to belong to a pair of Yetis. And in June 1944, C.R. Cook, his wife Margaret, and a group of porters encountered very large bipedal prints in soft mud at 14,000 feet, just below the Singalila Ridge, which the porters said were of the jungly Admi, the wild man. The creature had come up through bushes on the steep hillside from Nepal and crossed the track before continuing up the ridge. Cook wrote, "We laid Margaret's sunglasses beside each print to indicate its size and took photographs. These prints were strange and larger than any normal human foot, 14 inches heel to toe." There we go. The great toe set back to one side, a first toe also large, and 3 little toes closely bunched together. Peter Byrne reported finding a Yeti footprint in 1948 in northern Sikkim, near Zimu Glacier, while on holiday from a Royal Air Force assignment in India. Western interest in the Yeti peaked dramatically in the 50s while attempting to scale Mount Everest in 1951. Eric Shipton took photographs of a number of large prints in the snow at about 6,000 meters, 20,000 feet above sea level. Shipton took 3 photographs, one depicting the tracks, and the other 2 of one particular print was the size compared to a pickaxe and boot. So I think that's actually the one that I showed you, and that is the one that we're going to put up on the screen. These photos have been subject to intense scrutiny and debate. Some argue they are the best evidence of Yeti's existence, while others contend the prints are those of a mundane creature that have been distorted by the melting of snow. Jeffrey Meldrum examined a reconstructed form of the print in 2008, noting that one of the large toes was the result of a macrodactyl. Dactyly. He also stated that the alignment of the toes matched that of a great ape, and the Yeti would likely spend more time in the subtropical region of the Himalayas. Meldrum stated it was hard to conclusively say the prints were genuine since Shipton only took 2 photos of a single track. In 1953, Sir Edmund Hillary, I've heard of that guy, and Tenzing Norgay reported seeing large footprints while scaling Mount Everest. Hillary would later discount Yeti reports as unreliable. In his first autobiography, Tenzing said that he believed the Yeti was a large ape, and although he had never seen it himself, his father had seen one twice. But in his second autobiography, he said he had become much more skeptical about its existence. And during the Daily Mail Snowman expedition of 1954, of course it was the Daily Mail, the mountaineering leader John Angelo Jackson made the first trek from Everest to Kanchenjunga, in the course of which he photographed symbolic paintings of the Yeti at Tengboshe Gompa. Jackson tracked and photographed many footprints in the snow, most of which were identifiable. However, there were many large footprints which could not be identified. These flattened footprint-like intentions were attributed to the erosion and subsequent widening of the original footprint by wind and particles. On the 19th of March 1954, the Daily Mail printed an article which described the expedition teams obtaining hair specimens from what was alleged to be a Yeti scalp found in the Pangboche Monastery. The hairs were black to dark brown in color in dim light and fox red in sunlight. The hair was analyzed by Professor Frederick Wood Jones, an expert in human and comparative anatomy. During the study, the hairs were bleached, cut into sections, and analyzed microscopically. The research consisted of taking microphotographs of the hairs and comparing them with hairs from known animals such as bears and orangutans. Jones concluded the hairs were not actually from a scalp. He contended that while some animals do have a ridge of hair extending from the pate to the back, no animals have a ridge, as in the Pangboche scalp, running from the base of the forehead across the pate and ending the nape of the neck. Jones was unable to pinpoint exactly the animal from which the Pangboche hairs were taken. He was, however, convinced the hairs were not from a bear or anthropoid ape, but instead from the shoulder of a coarse-haired, hoofed animal. Interesting. Slawomir Rao exclaimed in his book The Long Walk, published in 1956, that as he and some others were crossing the Himalayas in the winter of 1940, their path was blocked for hours by 2 bipedal animals that were doing seemingly nothing but shuffling around in the snow. Like, they were doing seemingly nothing but shuffling around in the snow. They're not even doing anything, but they're blocking them. That's kind of funny.
Yeah. And what else is there?
And what else is there? That's the life of a Yeti. Just walk around in the snow. Beginning in 1957, the Texas oil businessman and adventurer Tom Slick. What a great name for a Texas oil businessman and adventurer. Tom Slick. What a perfect name, perfect whole thing. He led an expedition to the Nepal Himalayas to investigate Yeti reports, with the anthropologist Professor Carlton S. Kuhn as one of its members. In 1959, supposed Yeti feces were collected by one of Slick's expeditions. Fecal analysis found a parasite which could not be classified. Whoa. The United States government thought that finding the Yeti was likely enough to create 3 rules for American expeditions searching for it. Obtain a Nepalese permit, do not harm the Yeti except in self-defense, and let the Nepalese government approve any news reporting on the animal's discovery. In 1959, actor James Stewart, while visiting India, reportedly smuggled the so-called Pangboche hand by concealing it in his luggage when he flew from India to London. What the hell? This has layers to it, this whole thing. Why is it every time shit gets to the 50s, it just gets overly complicated? It's like whenever there's something that happens, whenever it gets to the 1950s, it just completely gets complicated. Like you know what I mean? Like different players get involved, things get passed around and talked about, and just really high profile people get involved with crazy shit. It's almost like a pattern. Apparently Yetis too. In 1960, Sir Edmund Hillary mounted the 1960 to 61 Silver Hut expedition to the Himalayas, which was to collect and analyze physical evidence of the Yeti. Hillary borrowed a supposed Yeti scalp from the Kumjung monastery, then himself and Kumjo Chumbi, the village headman, brought the scalp back to London, where a small sample was cut off for testing. Marka Burns made a detailed examination of the sample of skin and hair from the margin of the alleged Yeti scalp and compared it with similar samples from the Suro, blue bear, and black bear. Burns concluded the sample was probably made from skin of an animal closely resembling the sampled specimen of Suro, but definitely not identical with it. Possibly a local variety or race of the same species or a different but closely related species. Up to the 60s, belief in the Yeti was relatively common in Bhutan, and in 1966, a Bhutanese stamp was made to honor the creature. That's cool. However, in the 21st century, belief in the being has declined. That's sad. In 1970, British mountaineer Don Williams claimed to have witnessed the creature when scaling Annapurna. He reported that he once saw it moving on all fours. In 1983, Himalayan conservationist Daniel C. Taylor and Himalayan natural historian Robert L. Fleming Jr. led a Yeti expedition into Nepal's Barren Valley, suggested by discovery in the Barren in 1972 of footprints alleged to be the Yeti, Cronin and McNeely. The Taylor-Fleming expedition also discovered similar Yeti-like footprints, hominid appearing with both a helix and bipedal gait. Intriguing large nests in trees and vivid reports from local villagers of 2 bears. Okay. Aggressive and weighing up to 400 pounds. Further interviews across Nepal gave evidence of local belief in 2 different bears. Skulls were collected. These were compared to known skulls at the Smithsonian Institute and confirmed American Museum of Natural History and the British Museum, and confirmed the identification of a single species, the Asiatic black bear, showing no morphological difference between the tree bear and the ground bear. So this is just the whole paragraph about bears that they thought were going to be the Yeti. Get the fuck out of here. In the 21st century, in 2004, Henry Gee, editor of the journal Nature, mentioned the Yeti as an example of folk belief deserving further study and writing. The discovery that Homo floresiensis survived until so very recently, in geological terms, makes it more likely that stories of other mythical human-like creatures such as Yetis were founded on grains of truth. That's what I'm saying. This guy gets it. In early December 2007, American television presenter Joshua Gates and his team, Destination Truth, reported finding a series of footprints in the Everest region of Nepal resembling descriptions of Yeti, and each of the footprints measured 33 centimeters. 13 inches in length. It's always 33, with 5 toes that measured a total of 25 centimeters, 9.8 inches across. Casts were made of the prints for further research, and the footprints were examined by Jeffrey Meldrum of Idaho State University, who believed them to be too morphologically accurate to be fake or man-made before changing his mind after making further investigations. Later in 2009, in a TV show, Gates presented hair samples with a forensic analyst, concluding that the hair contained an unknown DNA sequence. A cast of the footprint is kept in the queue of the Expedition Everest. And on 25th of July 2008, BBC reported that hairs collected in the remote Garo Hills area of northeast India by Deepu Marak had been analyzed at Oxford Brookes University, and the UK primatologist and microscopy expert on John Wells. These initial tests were inconclusive, and ape conservation expert Ian Redmond told the BBC that there was a similarity between the cuticle pattern of these hairs and specimens collected by Edmund Hillary during the Himalayan expeditions in the 50s. That's pretty cool. Let's see. Let's see if anybody's actually made any leeway before I finish this off. Scientists, 2010, at a 2011 conference in Russia, declaring having 95% evidence of the Yeti's existence. What? However, this claim was disputed later. American anthropologist and anatomist Jeffrey Meldrum, who the hell does this guy think he is disputing this, was present during the Russian expedition. Oh, okay. Claim the evidence was found simply an attempt by local officials to drum up publicity. All right, well, he would know. So, a Yeti was reportedly captured in Russia in December 2011. What? What? Initially, the story claimed that a hunter reported having seen a bear-like creature trying to kill one of his sheep. Ooh. But after he fired his gun, the creature ran into a forest on 2 legs. The story then claimed that it could have just been some crazy man. The story then claimed that the Border Patrol soldiers captured a hairy 2-legged female creature similar to a gorilla that ate meat and vegetation. This was later revealed as a hoax or possibly a publicity stunt for charity. How would this be a publicity stunt for charity? What? In April 2019, an Indian Army mountaineering expedition team claimed to have spotted a mysterious Yeti footprints measuring 81 by 38 centimeters. 32 inches by 15 inches? Holy shit. Near the Makeloo base camp. That one sounds huge. All right. And just so I don't have to read this whole thing, what people think it is a bear, obviously. But I think it's an ape. Come on. Come on, guys. It's a Yeti. Let's be real. Let's be real now. It's most likely a Yeti. Right?
Do you think Yetis are interdimensional beings like Bigfoot?
No, I don't think Bigfoot's an interdimensional being, to be honest with you, but I think that they're very in touch with spirituality, apparently, more so than like a lot of other creatures. And they're more in touch with the earth, and I think that's because they've evolved to be more in touch with the earth, and they have something that we've lost, so to speak. You know, we used to have something like that, and we kind of lost it. But there's still a chance to get it back. You know what I mean?
I agree.